Welcome to this platform. So in this video, let us look at dentition. So let us revise dentition or questions on dentition. Now before we do, as always, let us have a recap or a brief about the topic. So the first thing you need to know how to define dentition. So what is dentition? So it's just a number and of course arrangement of teeth in the mouth of an animal. So we can say number and arrangement of teeth in the mouth of an animal. That is what we call dentition. Very important also to know or to define dental formula. Dental formula. What is dental formula? So for dental formula, we can look at number and arrangement of teeth according to the type. So we are going to say numbers and arrangement of teeth according to type on the upper and lower jaw in one half of the mouth. So that is the dental formula. So for the dental formula, we are looking at the numbers and arrangement of teeth according to type on the upper and lower jaw in one half of the mouth. That is how you define the dental formula. Now, it's very important also we look at the parts of the teeth, the parts of the what? The teeth. So the teeth has parts. So we have the outer part or the part that we normally see, the white part, it's white in color. So that is called the enamel. So the outer part is called the enamel. Okay, so that is very important to know. So one part is called the enamel. Then of course we have, before we go to the other parts, perhaps we can look at the function of the enamel. Okay, and the material that it is made up of. Okay, so the crown is what we call the outer part of is what we call the enamel. Okay, so as you can see from the diagram, this outer part here, this outer part, this one labeled F, is called enamel. Now what is the function of the enamel? What is the function of the enamel? So the function of enamel, or before we look at the function, let us look at the material it is made of. So this one is made up of calcium and phosphate, ions, okay, or salts. Then of course the function prevents, one of the functions is prevents wearing away of teeth. So you're looking at, let me just put it here, functions of the enamel. What is the function of the enamel? And by the way, this is the hardest material of the teeth, or should I say the hardest material in the body. Okay, so the enamel. So the function we are saying prevent wearing away of the teeth. So that is one of the function of the enamel. The other function is protect the teeth from damage. So simply protect the what? The teeth from damage, or the tooth from damage. So it is used also for crushing and grinding or cutting. Okay, biting, crushing and grinding, depending on the surface, because different types of teeth that we are going to look at, we are going to see that they have different structure on top there, or the enamel part different in structure. So the other part that we can look at, perhaps the second one, is called the dentine. So for the dentine, it is bone-like tissue made of calcium and phosphate ion. So it is also made of what? Calcium and phosphate ion. Okay, it is found right down or below the enamel. So we have the enamel on top, which is this F. This part here, the whole of this outer part is called the enamel. And now down the enamel, this part that you are able to see, this part, labeled G, and also coming to this part. This part is what we call the dentine. So it is found under the it is found down the after the enamel. So that's very important to understand. Then what is the function? It links the pulp cavity to the enamel. So links the pulp cavity to the enamel. Then of course the other part that we can look at is the pulp cavity. The pulp cavity. Now what is the pulp cavity? So a pulp cavity is this space here. Okay, so we have the enamel here, but we have this space inside here. So this space is what we call the pulp cavity. And now in the pulp cavity of the teeth, you find the blood vessels, the nerve cells. We find the blood vessels and the nerve cells. Okay, so these that you are seeing, okay, are what? Nerve cells. But we have also the blood vessels. Now it's very important to understand the function of each. What is the function of blood vessels? As you know, blood vessels. So blood vessels that we can talk of, we have that is the artery and of course the veins. So the veins or the artery takes the food, the blood, or moves the blood reaching oxygen and food into the teeth, and of course the other one takes out. So that is something that you need to understand. So the blood vessels supply the teeth with oxygen and food, and of course the nerve cells for sensitivity, so respond or detect or it makes the teeth sensitive to stimuli. So we can say makes the teeth or the tooth sensitive to what? To stimuli. And of course kind of stimuli, we talk of temperature, pressure, and of course pH. So those are the function of the blood vessels and the nerve cells. Then the other one that we can talk of is the cement. The cement is right here, the one that now attach the teeth to the what? To the jaw. Okay, so I is what we call the cement. So this is a bone-like tissue with fiber that anchor the teeth to the jawbone. So that is what we call the cement. So this is the what? The cement. Then we have here the enamel. Then we have this one, the pulp cavity. Okay, then we have this one. No, this one is the dentine, please. This one is the dentine. Then we have this one, the what? The pulp cavity. As you can see, it is pointing in the space. And of course, inside that is where you find blood vessels and all that. Okay, so that's very important to know as we do a recap. Then what is the other thing that we can look at? The other thing that we can look at are the types of teeth now. What are the types of teeth that we can look at? So we have one, the incisors. They are basically in humans, since we are looking at dentition. Not really in human, let me not say in humans. So 4 types of teeth that we can talk of in animals. 4 types of teeth. So one is called the incisors. Otherwise I. Then of course we have the canines, which is C, and of course we have the premolar. Pre means before molars, so PM. Then we have molars. So we have premolar and molar. So in terms of the arrangement, the incisors are in front of the mouth, then followed by the canine. Canine are these sharp ones as we are going to describe them. Then we have premolar and of course molars. Now for incisors, they are chisel shaped, and of course they are used for cutting and biting. They are chisel shaped and they are used for cutting and biting. Then for canine, they are dagger shaped, pointed, and they are used for tearing flesh. And of course you can see in carnivores, they are sharp, okay, because they are used for tearing of flesh and of course suffocating the prey. Then premolars or premolar, so for these they are ridged on top. They have ridges, they are broad and of course ridged, and of course they are used mostly for crushing and grinding of food. Okay, so they have ridges on top. They are called cusps here. Okay, so these are ridges we are talking of. Okay, so they are ridged, they are broad and ridged. okay, for grinding and crushing. So very important. Then of course molars, they have the same description as the molars. They are also ridged, or they have ridges for grinding and crushing. Now in terms of roots, molars, let me start with canines. They have one root. These have one root, but these have two roots. But for these, they have 2 to 4 roots. So very important to understand. Okay? Okay, so what is the other thing that we can talk of here? We can talk of the dental formula of different animals. The dental formula of different animals. And what are the animals that we can look at? We can look at humans. What is the dental formula of a human? So if we were to look at it, is I, which is 2 over 2. Then canines is what? 1 over 1. Then for premolars is equals to what? 2 over 2. Then for molar is equals to what? 3 over 3. So if you find a dental formula like this, just know that you see humans. Then of course the cow. What about the cow? So if you find the dental formula I, then 0, that is 0, 3. They do not have the incisors, which means on top. Then of course the canines. The canines is 0, 1. Then what about the premolar? The premolar equal to 3, 3. And of course the molar equal to what? 3, 3. So this is the dental formula for cow. What about for a cat? A cat, I is 3 over 3. Then C is equals to 1 over 1. Then for premolar, PM is equals to what? 3 over 2. Then of course for molar is equals to 1 over 1. So these you need to master them. Then for rat, the dental formula is I equal to what? 1 over 1. Then canines, C is equals to what? For rat, 0, 0. Then premolar, PM is equals to 0, 0. Then of course molar is equals to what? 3 over 3. So these are the dental formula that you need to know. Now, since we are saying the dental formula, we are looking at the number of teeth, okay? Types and number of teeth or arrangement of teeth, that is on the upper and the lower half of the mouth, okay? The number and arrangement of teeth according to type on the upper and lower jaw in one half of the mouth. So sometimes you can be given the dental formula like this and they ask you what is the total number of teeth. So what are you going to do? You are going to add the top numbers. So 2 plus 1, that is the 2 plus 1, that is the 3, plus 2, that is 5, then plus 3, that is 8. So you have 8 on top, which means even down you have 8. So you add 8 plus 8, giving you what? 16. Then you multiply by what? A 2. Since these are half a jaw, so you can put the whole of this dental formula after you've added everything, you multiply by 2. Even here, you multiply by 2. So which means humans have 32 teeth. So with that brief explanation or summary to the topic, let us answer the questions now. So figure 2.1 shows section through a human tooth. In short, we have the internal structure of a tooth. The first question is that state the names of the parts labeled F and G. So name of the parts labeled F and G. So what is F or part F? What is part F? So part F is the one that you are seeing right here. And this is the outer part of the teeth if we were to look at the structure. So this is called the what? The enamel. Then what about G? What about G? So G is right here. So the one that is after the enamel, and this is called the dentine. Okay, let me just write it from here. So G is equals to what? Dentine. So G is dentine. Then the second part here, so answer this part. Then the second part, explain the functions of the parts labeled H and D. I. So the parts labeled H. So before we give the function, I think we need to know the part. What is the part H? So the part H, if you have to look at it, is right here. It is pointing here, the space. So this is called the what? The pulp cavity. The pulp cavity. Now, what is the function of the pulp cavity? So for the pulp cavity, explain the function of the part labeled H and I. Okay, so we are saying it's the pulp cavity. So now, what is the function of the pulp cavity? So we can say it contains blood vessels which transport oxygen and food to the tooth. Okay, that is one of the function. Then it contain what? Contain nerve cells that are sensitive to offer sensitivity, or that are sensitive to stimuli. Okay, to stimuli. Stimuli, we said temperature, pressure, then also pressure and also pH. So in other words, it has nerve cells which offer or which gives sensitivity, or which makes the teeth sensitive. Okay, so that is, or these are the functions that we can talk of. That is for H. What about I? What is part I? So part I is the cement. Okay, part I is the what? The cement. What about the cement? What is the function of the cement? Now, where we are coming from, we had said that the cement just simply attach the what? The tooth to the jawbone. Okay, so it attach or anchors. Okay, so we can say anchors the teeth or the tooth to the jawbone. So that is the function. Okay, so we've answered this second question. Explain the functions of part labeled H and I. Okay, what about now the other question, that is explain how the tooth decay occurs, and this is 3 marks. How does the tooth decay occurs? So the tooth decay or tooth decay, what is tooth decay, by the way? So tooth decay is just a condition where the enamel of the tooth is corroded. Okay, so we can say tooth decay is the condition where the enamel of the teeth is corroded. Okay, corroded. So I've just defined what tooth decay is, but the question is explain how it occurs. So how tooth decay occurs is when bacteria in the mouth, act on the food that accumulates on the teeth and produce acid that erodes or corrodes, the acid corrodes the enamel. Okay, corrodes the enamel and result into the cavities. Okay, result into the cavities. So now the cavities, when the cavities reaches the pulp cavity, when the cavities reaches the pulp cavity. So I'll just describe when the cavities reaches the pulp cavity, the tooth start aching. So tooth decay, so how is it brought about, or explain how tooth decay is brought about? So you can say the tooth decay is brought about when the bacteria in the mouth act on the food that remains on the teeth or that accumulates on the teeth, called plaque, okay, called plaque. And of course, you know that they respire. Those bacteria, they feed on the sugars that remains on the teeth, and of course they respire. In the process, they produce acid. So the acid is the one that start now eroding the what? The enamel, forming what we call cavities. And the cavities, when they reach the pulp cavity, cavities when they reach the pulp cavity, since you know the pulp cavity has some nerves that are sensitive, so it starts aching, and that is what we call tooth or decay, or that is how it is brought about. So not necessarily defining this first part, but of course just going on to explain how it is brought about. And I hope you've gotten this. Or in other contexts, we can say tooth decay is brought about when the food stick in the mouth for a long time and form a plaque, okay, of which the bacteria act on or feed on the plaque and respire anaerobically, producing an organic acid. The acid dissolves the enamel of the tooth, forming the cavity in the mouth. When the cavity reaches the dentine, okay, the tooth starts getting painful. The pain increases further when the cavity reaches the pulp cavity. So I've just given you a brief description of the tooth decay, of which is the one that I've just summarized it here. So please, you can follow through and of course get to understand something there. Then explain 2 ways to prevent tooth decay. So how can you prevent tooth decay? So one of them is brushing teeth after taking or having a meal. So you brush the teeth after taking a meal. So that is one way to prevent what? Tooth decay. Then what is the other one? The other way to prevent tooth decay is avoid intake of sugary food, because sugary food are the ones that are contributing to tooth decay, as you've seen mostly in babies that or young ones that like sweets. So the other one is regular visit. So you visit the dentist at least twice per year. In that way, you can get the medical advice, and of course you can prevent tooth decay. So please, the ones that I've mentioned, I hope you've gotten the point. So brushing the teeth regularly, especially after a meal, and of course also avoid the intake of sugary foods and regular visit to the dentist. So that is how you can avoid that. Now, as we go on, we are going to find the same question, so we should be able to come back to the answer and refer to the answers. Okay, so very important. Let us look at the second question. So the second question is this one. So figure 3 shows the diagram of a tooth. So since we've answered the first question, this question is just a repetition of the second question. The first question that we've answered. So what is the question? Identify the type of tooth in figure 3.0 above and state its function. So the type of teeth that you are able to see here, it is called what? If you are going to write the premolar or the molar, okay, the answer is still what? Correct, because they have, as we can see, the structure. Then now, what is the function? So the function we said is for crushing and grinding, okay, crushing and grinding of what? Of food. That is the function. Label on the following parts. So label on the diagram the following parts: the blood capillaries. So for the blood capillaries, here, since it's showing sensory nerves, so for the blood capillaries are going to be right here, as you can see from here, although it's not that visible, but you can see right inside there that the blood capillary. So where the blood capillary is supposed to be found is just right here inside. Okay, so you can put it, I'll put it there. Okay, so label where the blood capillary, so I can say there's what? Blood, let me say blood capillary. Okay, because these are found. These, I'm trying to avoid these that are, you can see like these are nerve cells. Okay, so the other one should be the blood capillary, and I can see two entering here. And of course here I can't trace it, but in the question where it is given, you'll be able to see it clearly. Then the dentine. So the dentine is the whole of this part, and of course even this part. So wherever you produce your arrow from, so I'll produce it from here, and of course say this is the what? The dentine. Even if you label it from here, you'll still be correct. That is also the dentine. I hope you've gotten that. Then mention two elements, elements or ion which enable F to perform its function. So F is the enamel, and from where we are coming from, we said it is made up of two ions or elements. That is the calcium, okay, calcium and phosphate ions. Okay, so very important. Then suggest how tooth decay can be brought about. So this question again has come. So tooth decay can be brought about. What did I say? So for tooth decay, we said it can be brought about. It can be brought about when the food that stick in the mouth, when the food that stick on the tooth for a long time form a plaque of which the bacteria act on, okay, or act on the plaque and respire anaerobically, producing an organic acid or producing an acid, and that dissolve the enamel of the tooth, forming the cavity in the tooth. The cavity reaches the dentine, the tooth start getting painful, and of course it increases further when the cavity reaches the pulp cavity. So from there you can extract how it is brought about. So it is simply when the bacteria in the mouth act on the food that accumulates or that stick on the teeth, and those we call that is what we call the plaque. Okay, then give one way in which tooth decay can be prevented. So one, we said brushing teeth after a meal, also visiting the dentist. Also we talked of refrain from or avoid intake of sugary food. So that is what we said. So this answers this question. Now let us look at this one. Equally, this one is just the same. So the diagram below, or figure 2.0, shows the internal structure of the tooth. So it's just a repetition of what we looked at. Name the part labeled D and E. What is the part labeled D and E? So this one is the dentine. Okay, this is the dentine. Then of course D is the nerve cell or nerve ending. So nerve cell. Okay. Then explain what happened to the part F during tooth decay. So what happened to the part labeled F? The part labeled F is the enamel. So the question is, what happened to the enamel during what? Tooth decay. So what happened to the enamel during tooth decay is that the enamel is corroded or dissolved, okay, to form the cavity. So we can say it is corroded to form cavities. Okay, it is corroded to form by acid to form the cavities. That is what happened to the enamel. Then of course the other thing is that looking at the shape of the tooth in figure 2.0 above suggests the role it plays in digestion. So in short, what is the function of this in digestion? So as you can see the structure. Okay, so if I were to ask this, what is the name of this teeth, I would say it's the molar. Okay, it's the molar. Now what is the function? So this one is for crushing and grinding. Okay, crushing and grinding of what? Of food. That is very important to know. Okay, so complete the human dental formula below, filling in the missing number G, H, and J. So we looked at the dental formula for cat, for a cow, rat, and of course human. And of course from what we looked at, if you look at this one, So it was the incisors. So this I is for incisors, 2, 2. In short, in humans, all the numbers are equal. So if you have a 2 on top, just know that also down is a 2. If you have a 1, also down is a 1. If it's a 2, 2. 3, 3. So this, if we are to identify, let me start with the ones that are inside. So H is equals to 1. Then J is equals to what? 3. But since we are looking at finding the total, remember what I said, or what I was saying? I said you multiply everything that you are going to find by 2. So if we are to put 3 here, a 1 here, and we add everything inside, starting from the top part, we add the down part, then we multiply by 2, it's going to give us 32. Let us add on top. So on top is 3 plus 1 gives us what? 2 plus 1 is 3. Plus 2 gives us what? 5. Plus 3. So on top we have 8. Plus, even down we have 8. Then we multiply it by what? By 2, giving us 32. So that is how you find the total number of what? The total number of teeth. So please, you've seen that a dental formula is very important to master it, or to be very important to master. You don't know what you are given or what you'll be given next. It might be of a cow, of a goat, and all that. Okay? Then now, what is the other question? Oh, this one is the last question. Okay? It's the last question. So we've answered this question fully. Let us look at this final question. So figure 2.1 shows the lower jaw of a mammal. So we only know that it's a mammal. Let us look at the questions. Let us look at the questions. So the first question is that name the type of teeth, D and E. So this is where the mouth is starting from. So the one that is at the end, please. These are what? These are molars. Okay, so we have these are molars. Then we have these at the first part here. These are what? Incisors. Okay, so incisors and molars. So D, incisors, then E, molars. Relate the structure D and E to the function. So in short, what is the function of the molars and what is the function of what? Incisors. Incisors, as we can see, they are chisel shaped. And what did we say is the function? For cutting and biting. Okay, for cutting and biting. Then this, crushing and grinding. Okay, crushing and grinding. Okay, then state and describe the mode of nutrition of the mammal with this type of what? With this type of dentition. Okay, so state and describe the mode of nutrition of this kind of mammal. So the type of nutrition for this is called holozoic. Holozoic what? Nutrition. Now what is holozoic nutrition? So holozoic nutrition, we just looked at digestion. So holozoic nutrition is the kind of nutrition that occur in animals in a special tube called the alimentary canal. Okay, so it occurs in the alimentary canal. That is holozoic nutrition. So the kind of nutrition is called holozoic nutrition. Now in describing, you can say this is the type of nutrition that occur in the tube called alimentary what? Canal. Alimentary canal. Okay? And of course we can add it occurs in 5 stages. Okay? It occurs in 5 stages. What are the stages? 1, ingestion. Then digestion. Then absorption. Then assimilation, and of course egestion. Okay, so that is this brings us to the end of the session. So please, if you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel, kindly do so. Share with the loved ones as you prepare for exams. Let us prepare together. And of course, I wish you distinctions.